We've got Hunter versus Rogue, blitzchung versus DawN coming right up now, and this is going to be another good one just to see how well Hunter's going to get the job done, because I think at least this week, Gia, people were expecting Hunter, which is a big difference from the previous week when blitzchung just snuck in with mid-range Hunter and kind of got the job done. So we can take a look at blitzchung's list now. You can break this down for us.
Yeah, blitzchung has a lot of the one-ofs where you would expect maybe to have only one of the hatchet and sometimes only one of the scale height, and honestly nothing too much stands out in this particular list. Nothing of the Direwolf Alpha type of list like Shaxi had, and still two of the Unleash the Beast. What I do want to highlight is the lack of sideboards for Rogue, because we were criticizing a bit blitzchung's confidence in the interview into saying that I like playing my comfort decks, into not bringing any contingency plan for Rogue, which is Hunter's worst matchup, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really tough, isn't it? Because I think there are at least reasonable arguments that the cards you could include for Rogue, say if you include them in your primary list, aren't good enough to warrant them being in your primary list if you don't hit Rogue, because they might make your other matchups just more worse than they do make Rogue better. And also with the secondary decks needing sort of a control killer for Warrior, which I think is, at least for me, maybe even more likely to hit, and then the other options as well. I'm not sure if there's just enough room to create a direct counter, and I'm not sure whether you can hedge that far away. But let's take a look at DawN's list, and this is the Rogue he does have to take down as well. So what do you make of this one in the Hunter matchup specifically?
Yeah, Rogue in general, in all its current viable forms, I think is very favored against Hunter, but maybe the Burgle Rogue not so much as the Tempo Rogue, because they don't have that all-in weapon package, just the one Waggle Pick and no deadly poisons, which is really the thing that Hunter struggles to deal with. In particular, DawN also, I think, lost to Shaxi the other day, and Shaxi was on Hunter, and he didn't even have scale heights in the primary, so I am a little bit worried about when I watched the VOD, it seemed like there were several turns when DawN could have gone for an earlier Edwin, which I think could have locked Shaxi out. So I hope to see DawN maybe play a little bit more aggressive this time, knowing that the Rogue definitely is the aggressor.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, because not only do the players have to adapt, and they're playing two opponents a weekend, but if they play the same class and roughly the same build, they have to adapt to the matchup and maybe learn it a bit more over the weekend, but also realize that you're also against two different decks, so it's not as if every single card is the same 30. See the players getting ready there, and DawN looking sharp. He's taken after Bunny Hopper yesterday.
Yeah.
Bunny Hopper was at a wedding yesterday, had to come back to play his match, so he was in a shirt and tie, and DawN's just keeping it up. He's like, whatever you guys can do, I can do just as well.
Is he heading to a wedding too? I think it may be more likely that he had a casting commitment. I'm not sure, but I definitely have seen DawN and Flurry cast on the desk very often, and they always are more sharply dressed than we are. So maybe dressing well just gives them confidence too.
Yeah, I mean,
can definitely relate to
I'll never
that.
complain with someone, dressing very smart for any occasion overall. So let's get into it though. Game number one of this matchup is going to be DawN. Currently 4-1 in standings, and blitzchung, although had a good last week, is still only 3-2 overall because he did take a loss yesterday. So it means that he just really needs this win to keep up with the top cut of the division, as DawN, at least before today started, DawN was second place in Division B.
And it's true, going into this week, we had the storyline of Cloud9 being undefeated, but now Flurry's record has been tarnished a little bit. DawN, with the matchup, of course, doesn't look like he'll be in the same position, but similar, again, to Bunny Hopper reference, there was a series where he played against Boston, I think, and even as the Hunter, managed to 2-0 a Rogue. So definitely the Rogue hasn't, I mean, it's not a free win.
No, definitely not. I think there are certain turns that can do really well, and especially if you're playing the slightly slower version of Rogue. Well, look at these turns. None of them are great tempo either. You play a 2-mana 1-1, and yes, you do gain the lackeys a little bit later, but imagine if the Blink Fox just was a different card. Like, this is very low pressure, and when you've seen how quickly Hunter can kind of stack up damage, and Rogue doesn't often have a good way to heal outside of exactly Life Drinker, so...
So this Hyena on 2-play actually really surprises me, because playing a minion to give backstab activation when the Rogue is off coin, I keep harping on about this, and I might have snap played it if he didn't have that option to go coin Master's Call, but I feel like there have been times throughout the weekend where people had exactly this option of coin Master's Call or Hyena and have gone for the Master's Call. So I wonder if blitzchung has a bit of a different experience as to denying options from the rogue, maybe.
Yeah, it is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think holding the coin maybe because he does have so much beefier options. He has the double Rhino in his list, for example, that we can see drawn now. But I'm not too sure myself, because one of the tough things to get your head around, at least as Hunter, is you have a lot of minion pressure and minion damage. And if you just pass early turns, then you just make it more likely that they're getting a miscreant off anyway. And then you have to really work into specific combos to make cards like Hyena work.
Sure.
So maybe just asking the rogue the question is if they have it is good enough. And he almost got away with it, because it did have to be exactly that lackey if he didn't have the backstab.
Yeah, or the rush one.
Sure, yeah.
But this was, of course, the cleaner answer. And now DawN has to play a little bit off curve, unless, of course, he gets something cheap to play here. Deadly Shot, not awful, but probably redundant with Sap.
I think with a lot of beast-based cards that Hunter has, I think Deadly Shot's a pretty good just neutral card that does a single job all the time.
blitzchung hasn't hit a Spring Paw yet, which makes these 2/1/1s very awkward.
Or even an Unleash with a coin.
Yeah. And he's choosing to play the Shimmerfly with Kill Command instead of just playing Mark Shot, so that I think he would have overdrawn if he did the Mark Shot play. So we saw that earlier. I wonder if DawN saps this just to be able to activate Miscreant. Probably not. Oh, he's got the cable. Yeah, of course.
Cable,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I am blind. I would like to see a trade-off of one of the minions to hedge around Unleash a bit better, because that is one of the ways that... Wow, okay. I was going to say that's one of the ways that Hunter comes back into this.
It is, but Unleash actually works very poorly against Miscreant, even post-nerf, because yeah, there's 4 dogs, but okay, they kill the 1/1s, fine, but DawN isn't too precious about the 1/1s anyway. And if you're trading a 1/1 away to stop a 1/1 being killed later, then it's not so bad. And the Miscreant often just doesn't die on those turns.
It's true. And I guess if there was something like Unleash and Hyena, DawN has 2 answers for it, so not too bad either.
I think as well with double Life Drinker, DawN can start, and Leroy in hand of course, DawN can start just thinking about how quickly he can push damage here.
These are... I'm looking at the Snake Trap, but it won't that often go off because at this point Rogue probably has spells to deal with minions instead of having to ram minions into it. Unleash the Beast feels too slow. I wonder if you maybe take the Beast Within just to like rush a minion and then it takes a value trade.
Wouldn't be bad with Rhino next turn. You
Yeah.
can attack twice.
Yeah.
Wind Fury, kind of.
And I think I would take the Snake Trap though, just because it's probably better overall to just deal with the 3/1/1s.
Blitzchung going to use the coin to get Snake Trap active now. He had the floating 1 mana anyway to try and utilize, and he doesn't want to just play a Timberwolf into this board. And also it does mean it has a side effect that DawN has to just consider and start to think, okay, what's this secret?
Yeah.
Can I deal with a rat if one gets summoned after playing 3 cards?
Yeah.
Yes is often the answer with this hand, but still,
I
he has
think
to consider.
It had a lot of bluff value there because Explosive Trap would have been very annoying for DawN. Instead, he decides that the risk of Explosive Trap is not worth not attacking. Anatide Totem. Haven't seen that card in quite a while.
I lost because of that card today. My Khadgar summoned 2 of them, and I overdrew many cards.
Still no Unleash the Hounds.
I do like this Life Drinker as well, because again, I feel like DawN can pile on pressure. Now there's Shadow Step, there's Leroy, there's another Life Drinker. This one probably gets to hit for 3, because you've seen very little removal from Blitzchung so far.
Master's Call, I think at this point, is close to guaranteed drawing Spring Paw, if not guaranteed. The hand size is quite an issue though, and it might just be too slow. So do you ever go for a Rhino Timberwolf play? Oh, that feels so bad. I mean, the Rhino can clear the Life Drinker in that instance, but...
You can just Hatchet Master's Call, right? You don't get the extra charge, but do you need it that much?
Maybe not. Looks like it is just going to be Mark Shot. Hunting for explosive seems pretty good here. Not that explosive, though.
Yeah, wrong one. And also the secret was a Snake Trap. A little bit annoying that you couldn't play an additional secret there, but still Wing Blast. Not too shabby at all. At least get something done.
Yeah. Having to tempo the Timberwolf feels really bad, but I think it's better than floating a mana, especially since he's looking to draw with Master's Call quite soon. And now DawN can get lackeys for days if he wants to, but he also has some hand size issues.
Wow. All those 3 cards look very similar. Pilfer and the other one as Stolen Steel has the same character in.
They all had the same color scheme too, I
yeah.
think. Maybe same artist, but the Wanted here,
I was considering the Betrayal there.
Yeah, I just feel like the hand is so heavy and he kind of wants to get rid of stuff so he can make room for the lackeys from the Miscreant.
Double Evolve on the keyboard.
I could see it.
He's going to go to a 4-drop.
At this point, he's tested for Snake, so he knows it's exactly... Sorry, he's tested for Rat, so he knows it's exactly Snake, I think.
I believe so. He can still give a minion rush as well, if he's got the time.
I wonder if he got all the actions, and we did
He looks like he did.
Yeah.
DawN doesn't look flustered.
I wonder if he'd have rather played a Lackey and Pilfer. Like the Rush Lackey could have cleared another Snake rather than Redagger, but if there was no time to target those things, then Redagger did just make sense. We've seen a lot of players get a little bit wrecked by the rope this weekend.
Also, funnily enough, that the Shadow Step was used on that Witchy Lackey, which means there's no available for Leroy next turn. That was extra 6 damage gone.
It's really strange to me. It just looks like he didn't want to step anything that generated more stuff because he wants to make room for more lackeys. But that's the thing with this rogue sometimes. Like, yeah, you can have lackeys for days, but if you never get the damage, sometimes you're doing a whole load of nothing by just stepping things.
I don't want to make room for more stuff. I want to make room for punching my opponent in the face.
It's true, they're at 18. And
literally sets up lethal. If he'd kept the Shadow Step.
Even though the lackeys have been kind of scrappy, the fact that blitzchung has not had good answers means that DawN's just chipped for so much damage throughout these turns. And he finally hits the Spring Paw and can clear the majority of this while setting up a decent-sized Hyena.
Yeah, and the benefit of this Witchy Lackey, of course, harped on about it a little bit, but it is instant value from the Shark, and it did generate a big enough minion that blitzchung had to consider killing it, because if it pushed the 4 damage to face, then that opens up even more chance that DawN can kill him. This Hyena is already dead if DawN chooses, or he can just sap it into nothingness.
So the Sap gives him more mana flexibility because I do think he's going to play Miscreant and probably want to fit in as many lackeys as possible along with that.
Yeah, Sap just seems good as well because you're not expecting a taunt from the Hunter.
It's exactly
so why not
Misha.
spend less mana now, And Misha you can often just deal with anyway, there's enough stuff.
Oh, going for the Life Drinker then.
Yeah, get the damage in now.
Yeah, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense and he can still deadly shot this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we were just saying like all the lackeys have been doing not killing their opponent. So yeah, it does make sense to go Life Drinker over Miscreant here, especially with Leroy in hand.
Now, if the board is cleared, there needs to be 1 damage generated, and there are 2 lackeys that you could with Leroy into Miscreant into Lackey next turn. And that's even if the board is cleared, right? He needs less than that regardless. Blitzchung on 8 health means that this is going to be a big, big ask. And somehow, this, I say slower rogue deck, slower than the really fast one, has got there before Zul'jin is even a thing. Time Frenzy too little too late for that Scale Hide.
It's looking like he's bluffing Explosive again, but DawN can very easily test for it. Yeah.
If it's explosive, the Shark lives anyway, deals 2 damage, which even without anything else apart from Leroy in hand, gets the job done. The only thing he has to consider is Snipe. So he probably plays the Miscreant first anyway, because these minions get to attack, you don't have to Miscreant for a Lackey. So it's kind of a win-win situation no matter what. Now he knows it's not Snipe, and that is going to be game number 1, going to DawN. And he takes a good first step in moving on to that 5-1 record by the end of week number 3.
That was a rather one-sided game, but you often see that with the Rogue versus Hunter matchup. And again, I have to question blitzchung. He's not going to move off this deck, I think, because he's got a tertiary, which is for the mirror. It does have another scale height, but it also has Tiger and High Main, and it cuts an Unleash. And we saw that entire game, blitzchung was waiting and waiting to draw his Unleash, and it came too late. So he's forced to stay on the primary, which does not have that much counterplay to roll.
Yeah, it didn't really get there that game, but it was a little bit difficult, and I will say DawN really got rolling pretty quickly, especially with those two Cable Rats just available early on. So DawN taking a lead 1-0, but it's not out for blitzchung quite yet. So while the players decide on what deck they're going to queue, we're just going to step away for a minute. We'll be right back.
What's up, Hearthstone fans, and welcome to the second episode of The Curve, where we draw the biggest headlines from this past weekend on Curve. I'm your host, Derek Brown. Let's do this. Flurry and DawN continued their dominance in Asia Pacific, finishing with a perfect 4-0 match record. That brings Cloud9's overall record to 10-2, best among all teams with 2 or more members, despite teammate Kalento's 2 losses in the European region. The group will look to stay on top heading into Week 3. Psycho's impressive run to start the season continued in Grandmasters Europe, as he defeated both Yala and Swids to improve to a 4-0 record overall. Even better, he now sits at a perfect 8-0 game record. He'll look to keep his win streak alive next week as he takes on the world champion, Hunter Ace. Despite the nerfs to Rogue this past week, 2 Brave Americas players, Monsanto and Strifecrow, decided to bring the class anyway. Their risk paid off though, as both players went 2-0 this past weekend. Monsanto leads the entire Americas region with a dominant 4-0 match record, while Strifecrow sits in second place in the A division with a 3-1 record. With all of the Hearthstone Grandmasters being front and center, let's not forget to check in with our friends in China. This year, China is running 2 tournaments that will lead into playoffs and then the World Championship later this year. We'll keep you posted on the Gold Open and the Gold Team Championship. In this week's Meta Moment, we continue to highlight the Mage. After a warrior-infested Week 1, Mage came out to dominate Week 2. Of the 48 matches played across all regions, 42 of those matches contained a Mage. Outside of mirror matches, the Mage class only had a 50% win rate, and yet it's still the talk of the town as one of the best decks. We'll continue to see if the deck can sustain its popularity and find out if it truly is one of the most dominant classes in this meta. If you missed any of the Grandmasters action, you can check out the VODs on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Hearthstone Esports. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as Grandmasters resumes this weekend. That's it for us. We'll see you in the tavern.
We are back. DawN getting a good win there, and a pretty one-sided win versus blitzchung with the Rogue, and they're going to just be queuing the same decks again. As you mentioned when you were breaking down the other options, there's just not that other deck to actually choose for these matchups, right? Everyone seems to have like -1 deck list choice because there's no Mage has been submitted in this region.
Yeah, I mean, Mage, everybody thought would be there, but it just did not show up, and that's like, I'm just super surprised that APAC went next level to the fact that everybody went to level 2, because level 1 bring the best deck, right? Level 2 bring the counter, level 3 bring the counter to the counter. And I feel like the level 3 is Rogue, which also beats the level 1. So maybe Rogue is also a great bring, but we do kind of agree that Bomb Warrior for this weekend, at least for APAC, looked really strong. But it is going to be another story of that Hunter versus Rogue, and blitzchung had a really tough struggle in that first game. So looking to see a bit more counterplay in this one.
Yep, the opening hands do have a big impact on this, of course. And at blitzchung, was that just a snap keep?
It's a solid curve.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I was just double checking, but having the spring paw into the hatchet, into the Master's Call, He's going to be able to put a bit more pressure on, but DawN is just a god. Look at this, just cable rack. Not that it's a great tempo play, but it's just stuff that generates more stuff. And then having just Blink Fox and now Coin, Backstab, and SI. That hand is magnificent.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you just dress well, you get better hands. I'm going to conduct a study on that and see if there's a correlation. But in reality, this will probably just be a dagger turn. But I mean, DawN has things to do after that, which is totally fine for him, I think, to just take the turn to remove the Spring Paw and not risk any hyena shenanigans.
Yeah, it's the difference here between using this kind of hand as a tempo advantage and using it as an options advantage, right? Because next turn, there is still just Blink Fox, and then there is still SI potential, or there's just cable right into Lackeys. The turn after that can be all the other stuff you didn't do, or even coin into Ziliax right now. So there's so many options, and now with his Vendetta, I feel like the Blink Fox is just an even harder sell right now.
Verisa Windrunner. Were you one of the ones who was excited for Spell Damage Hunter?
Yeah.
When they announced the card?
It was insane. The deck still has one of my highest win rates I've ever had. It was ridiculous. I was actually looking at the stats the other day for that specific deck.
I don't know if that says stuff about the deck or about your general win rates, but...
The win rate, the win rate was very good.
Okay.
Okay, like stupidly good. I mean,
all right.
It wasn't like 53%, and that's the highest win rate I've ever had.
Blitzchung with the easy clear into developing his own hyena there, and he's got a solid curve going forward. He's just hoping to draw Master's Call again soon, or perhaps just tracking to just keep it rolling, because the Rogue, I think you can expect them to have the answers for this pretty often, because it is the Burgle Rogue with the Vendettas.
And also just the sheer amount of cards in hand just often leads to either being the worst hand in existence, or they have ways to either deal with this board or at least contest it. Like at minimum contest it. Vendetta on the Hyena though. DawN not going to mess around with trying to face tank this with the weapon. It's just, no, I'm not taking 4 for no reason. I'm just going to deal Vendetta easy, 0 mana, and then also win the board.
And you see that DawN targeted face with the SI. He could have at once saved an extra health and the weapon if he hit the Shimmerfly, but I like this play because he is probably going to waggle pick really soon, and the sooner you pick against the Hunter, the less time they have to heal up with the Scale Hide and Frenzy. Unleash the Beast seems heavy because he's got double rhinos, but I also don't hate it. Maybe you take the Timberwolf just to have the synergy with the Spring Paws.
Maybe you take the kill command and just hold the L a little bit this turn.
All of them have merit, but I'd say the 2 on the left probably more so than the 1 on the right. But Blitzchung, yeah, he's running the 2 of Unleash the Beast, right? So,
I think if you don't deal with this SI, then the Unleash the Beast doesn't matter that often. He's going to go for it though. Okay, okay.
So I was thinking, if you take Unleash the Beast, I thought he would go Deadly Shot this turn. Oh, right, he still has the weapon, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, any Animal Companion works here.
I guess for me, I was wondering the difference between the weapon swing. Obviously, Huff is cool, right? Getting Huff is great. But the difference between taking the damage and not, basically, with the kill command versus the weapon swing and the Spring Paw. Obviously, being able to weave the Animal Companion in is powerful. But maybe that could have whiffed a little bit. If that was a Leok, that would have been significantly worse.
For sure. But the Unleash the Beast pick works out in the end for DawN, for Blitzchung, because he has something more proactive this turn to do instead of just developing the Rhino. But now he picks up an Animal Companion, and there is this choice of trying to get Huffer again and start racing DawN, perhaps. If you get any of the 4 attack companions, it dies straight up to the Waggle pick, but maybe you're not too sad about it because that's 4 damage not going to your face.
Yeah, and also more damage going to DawN's face. And Blitzchung, it's a tough call because one of the drawbacks of Unleash the Beast in this matchup, in this situation, is that because you don't actually get a trade, it means that Sap just demolishes your turn. They literally beat your turn with a third of the mana you used to make the turn, which feels horrible, and you missed a hero power.
In the end, I do like the Rhino +1 drop play because it's not the perfect stat line for the Waggle pick to deal with. And then there is just a little extra damage pushed on top of this. He saves both ends of the Unleash the Beast for trading with something, but he also leaves the option open to start smorking in the off chance that the Rhino survives. So DawN can go Life Drinker and bounce it if he wants to. It seems a little slow, but it is pushing damage and healing him.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd rather bounce the Cable Rat, though. I do think this Backstab and Waggle Pick Charge are landing onto the Rhino, though. Or I could be wrong.
Just going in.
And leaving a Tundra Rhino on board is... granted, he could still deal with it with Backstab Coin Ziliax.
Yeah, I think that's what he's going for, right?
Okay.
Potentially just best of both worlds right now.
This is interesting. I wonder if making sure that the 4 damage from the weapon goes face is more relevant than developing a stronger board there. I guess it's not too different how it would have ended up. It's just like a Life Drinker versus a Ziliax.
Right. And I think that's fine overall, because the Ziliax doesn't do instant damage from hand. I think cashing in as much damage to face as possible is important in Rogue.
Okay.
And I think the timing of when you do that is super important and game-winning. blitzchung, first person ever to be a little bit upset by a Huffer, maybe?
Yeah, perhaps. He still has this mark shot, but it's not what he wanted to do this turn.
Yeah, I think he's scared of dying because of the way DawN just played.
For sure. Freezing Trap, insta-pick here. Some insurance against Leroy. So the Verisa gives him a weapon to deal with Huffer.
I want to see blitzchung's face, because that is... Not only is that 6 damage, it's also absurd damage from Eviscerate.
Yes.
Like, you just die.
But
You normally just die from Eviscerates, but you die even more often with this card.
blitzchung can try to isolate, because the Verisa is isolated, he could try to freeze this, but I feel like the Deadly and Rhino is fine anyway. He just presents another Rhino that DawN has to deal with. The problem is it's the second one, and you kind of are still trying to kill DawN, but he just doesn't have the burst potential from hand.
And I think the problem is, if he Deadly Rhinos, he's just dead to Leroy Shadow Step, which is very scary.
So he wants to fit in a Freezing Trap. So is the play just no minions this turn? You go like Master's Call, Deadly Shot, Freezing Trap? The Master's Call, granted, can draw you a lot of things that can almost push lethal with the Rhino, but I don't know if it gets there even if you get the Timberwolf.
This is a really difficult turn because the way DawN has played as well, I'm pretty sure has led blitzchung to believe that he has it. Because he's been playing so aggressively, pushing damage to face. Because even with so many cards in hand, DawN played the Verisa to push 2 that turn. Pushing 2 is not the most powerful singular thing he could have done this turn, based on his hand.
So Rhino, Timberwolf, Hyena, and Shimmerfly. Plus the weapon. I think it's 11 damage. Not quite enough. From DawN's perspective, I don't know which secret he's scared of most. It might be Rat Trap, because
He can't deal with it.
yeah. Blazing is the only one that isn't
It's-
straight trash, right?
Yeah, I was just quickly thinking about a few things, but yeah, Blazing's the only one that's decent. It's funny, I was thinking about, so what are the good battle cries you can discover? I should have just looked at the other 2 cards and gone, oh, those are bad.
Yeah.
There's literally no other choice.
Wow,
Sinister Strike?
He risked the Rat Trap there. I think Rat Trap would have been disastrous for DawN. He did not have a way to deal with it.
But maybe he loses anyway, if it's Rat Trap. Sorry,
I mean,
if he doesn't play enough cards, does he just not get the damage and lose regardless?
all he did with that extra mana was develop a 1/1, and I guess discovering a Sinister Strike is quite relevant because now he can go Drinker, Sinister Strike, but man, I feel like the Rat Trap would have guaranteed a loss. Granted, it is only 1 out of, I think there were 4 secrets he still hadn't tested for.
Oh wait, he only needs 1 damage to win, right? He actually needs to push 1 damage from one of these minions to win, and he would have got it.
Yeah.
Alas, it was not meant to be, as blitzchung is going to clear the board, and this Hyena's looking scary.
Yeah. Sinister Strike with the spell damage. Pretty insane. Not that it would have mattered with just life drinker, weapon charge.
Yeah, like I said, it would have been 13
Okay.
out of 14,
Yeah.
so he needed something to hit face. Oh, does that change anything?
This is just lethal,
Two.
right?
Right, yeah, it is because the spell damage,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
At first I was like, how much more damage is it than life drink? And it's like more because the spell damage adds to 2 spells instead of 1 for that combo. So yeah, that's just going to be the game, and DawN gets there off the back of the Hunter Legendary. Feels bad if you're the Hunter game beat slapped around by your own Legendary. But yeah, DawN just goes 2-0 versus blitzchung very quick. Surprised.
Did he have the lethal there without the eviscerate? Because I said it wouldn't have mattered whether or not he had the spell damage, but I think it did in the end matter there.
No, because it would have been 2 from the weapon, 6 from the life drinkers, and then 1 Sinister Strike, right? Which would have just been 6, would have been 13 out of 14, right?
Okay.
So he was 1 off
Okay.
with that. So he did need the
Yeah.
eviscerate that turn to specifically just win. But congratulations to DawN. Really good showing from him, and I'm not exactly sure where he sits in the standings, but that is him going to 5-1 as well. So he's looking pretty strong and he's sitting at the top, or at least right near the top of Division B. And that is match number 4 done for today. We have Samuel Zhao versus Patra coming up next, and that one is going to be a Hunter Mirror. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.